Hey, it's Tyler from Rehab to Fab Designs, and I am so excited to share with you my new dining table. See this table here? This is from Neiman Marcus, and it's gorgeous, but it has a price tag of $3,299. This one's pretty too. This is from Birch Lane. Check out the price on it. This one comes in at a whopping $12.99 on sale. And while these are gorgeous, I can't quite afford them, so my husband built one for me because of two things. One, can't nobody at my house afford that. And two, we love all things DIY. Since we don't have a sawmill, logs, and a wood lathe laying around, he decided to build my table legs using individual pieces that he cut and tapered to give the look of the same ones from the stores. These were glued and stacked to create a beautiful pedestal, and then he went to work on the top. Next, it was time to start sanding it to get it nice and smooth and ready for the final finish. This is where I come in, but first, let's show some appreciation for the curves on this base. These are individual 2x6s that he cut using a router and then put together. And look how smooth. Okay, so my husband's building me a new table for my kitchen, and it is made out of brand new wood, but we don't want it to look new. We have children. I have a 14-year-old and an almost 4-year-old, and so it's probably going to get beat up pretty good. So we're going to distress it so it looks like old, weathered, worn wood, so it's not brand new, and hopefully it will help sustain all the wear and tear that it's going to pick up with my kids. To create the look of old wood, I basically took lots of different materials that we had laying around the shop to use to beat into the tabletop to make indentations on it and make it look old and worn. Here's a close-up view just so you can kind of see the marks that I've put in it. Some of my favorites are done with the screw, where I use the hammer to just kind of lay the screw down on top of the table and then hit it with the hammer and leave those little marks in it. Also just some gouges here and there, again, just so we can kind of naturally distress it so it doesn't look like brand new wood. Because the sides and edges of the table get a lot of wear and tear, I know because of my current table, I decided to go ahead and kind of knock some chunks out of this. So I'm using a screwdriver and a hammer to just kind of put it right on the edge of the table here. That way I can take out some little chunks. That way, again, it'll look kind of naturally worn and I don't have to worry about new places once we use it. Once I was happy with all the distressing, it was time to sand it to get it nice and smooth, and for that I'm using sanding sponges by Dixie Belle. The most important thing you want to remember when you're sanding is to sand with the wood grain. So you want to follow the same direction as the grain, otherwise you can leave scratches in the finish that you don't want. For my color choice, I'm going with Tobacco Road, which is a Voodoo gel stain, water-based gel stain from Dixie Belle, and I'm using their blue sponge to apply it. When applying stain, you want to use the same technique as sanding, and you want to apply it in the same direction as the wood grain. Because this is a water-based stain, it does dry relatively quickly, so you want to work kind of fast. I usually work in kind of smaller sections and then be sure to come back over the whole length of the piece if it's not dry once you're done. That way you don't have any streaks. So remember how we made all those little indentations in the top of this table? We did that to distress it. For those, you want to make sure you get your stain down in there, because if you just go right over the tabletop and don't get it down in those low spots, those spots are going to be natural wood when we're done. And the look we're actually going for is, once we distress this back, we want those parts to be actually darker so it looks like the stain is sitting down in them. So for that, just take your Voodoo gel stain and just put you a little small amount right into those low spots and then rub right over the top. When working on the bases, it took a little bit more stain, and this is just because some of the, like every other side on the cuts on these is a little bit rougher on the grain, so it takes a little bit more stain to kind of penetrate it, so just apply that and keep working it in until you get the look you're going for. This is just kind of a close-up look so you can see how many boards my husband cut to put together to make this table. Truly amazes me. Hey, it's Tyler, and I am back again to work on this custom table again that my husband built for me. So we started the finish by adding Tobacco Road Voodoo gel stain from Dixie Belle, and it looks great. It looks like a brand new table, but my goal is to not have it look like a brand new table because I have children and it's going to get beat up. So we want to kind of naturally age and distress it so it looks like it's meant to be beat up. That way when it actually gets some Mars in it for my children, it won't look bad. So we, in the previous videos, you saw that we kind of used different various tools to kind of make marks and indentations in it. And then I stained it, and now we are going to sand it back because we want like an old distressed look. So I'm going to sand it back, and then we're going to put a wash on it. All right, so I'm going to start by sanding first. So this is a 220 grit sandpaper. I buy it in sheets, and we cut it into like 4 pieces, and this is just a sanding pad. You can use this to sand as well, but I like to use it to have something to hold on to, so I just wrap my sanding paper right around the block, and then I use it to sand over my pieces. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put a nice heavy distress on this, so we're going to sand it back pretty heavily, and I want mostly my dark stain to show in my indentations that I made, my dings, my marks that we kind of put in it to make it look older and around your wood grain, and then we'll go from there and see about our wash. So I'm leaving this portion in real time because I want you to be able to see exactly how the wood grain really starts to pop again and show up once you sand over some of that stain to lighten it up a little bit and really make that grain stand out. Here's a comparison for you so you can see where I just distressed it. It's a lot lighter in between the wood grain, and you can see the dark areas in those indentations, and then this is it with just the stain on it alone without sanding. Okay, so I did come over this with a 220. I did come back over it afterwards with an 80 grit just to open up the grain a little bit because I'm trying to really get it really heavily worn and distressed, so I see the dark stain in all these little indentations that we made to distress it, and this is what it's looking like. Once you do the 80 grit, you're going to come back over it again with the 220 just to kind of soften it because it will make it a little bit rougher. But in comparison, so this is what it looks like just with the stain on it, and then here's what it looks like sanded back to distress it. Now it's looking more like old kind of barnwood, and that is the look we're going for. So we're going to continue sanding this whole thing. We've got to do the top and then also the base. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is put a wash on this. A wash is just basically a mix of paint with water. You can do different ratios. Some people do 4-to-1. You can do a 10-to-1. It's just kind of all your preference. So I've got a cup of water here, and then I also have a cup that I'm going to add my water and my paint to. And we're going to make it really nice and thin, heavily watered, and then we'll brush it on with a paintbrush and wipe it back. So I added water up to this second line here on my solo cup. And it actually has a little bit of paint already in it from where I mixed it just to kind of get a feel for what I wanted to do. I added a little bit of wash on the back of the table. I did stain the underneath because I felt like it was not done if I didn't. So I stained the underneath as well. Did a little practice run with it. So I'm just going to take 1 spoon of paint and put it right in there. And like I said, it's pretty watery, and you can kind of just play with it and see what you like. We'll add a little bit more. Because we can always add some more and go back over it if we want. So we'll just mix this up and then we'll start brushing it on. And I'm just taking a paper towel. Continue brushing your wash all along the whole length of the table, working from one side to the other, again following the wood grain, and then come back over with a lint-free cloth or a paper towel and wipe back the excess. Okay, I am back to finish up my table here. I have got it heavily distressed, so it looks like old kind of worn barnwood. I stained it, I distressed it really heavily, and then I came back over it and did a paint wash to lighten it up and kind of change the tone. And I am really loving how it looks. And now all I have left to do is to seal it to protect it. I have considered not sealing it at all, again, because this is going to be like our primary kitchen table, and I have kids, and I fully expect it to get beat up. And the more I do to it, then of course the harder it's going to be to like refinish it, which is why I wanted it to be heavily distressed, so it would be, you know, the nicks and stuff would match with the actual finish of the table. But I do want to seal it for protection, so for that I'm using Dixie Belle's clear coat. Flat is kind of my go-to. I'm not big on a high sheen on furniture. Sometimes I am, it depends on the pieces, if it's kind of a classy piece, but for something like this, it's going to get a lot of use and a lot of wear and tear, like every day, couple meals a day we sit at our kitchen table, our current one. And the top looks terrible, which is why I wanted a new table. So I'm going to go ahead and seal it. I'm using flat, again, Dixie Belle's clear coat, and then a Dixie Belle synthetic brush. I'm going to paint this in the direction of the grain, just so it's nice and smooth. Try not to overwork it, because if you do, it starts drying pretty quick. Dixie Belle's clear coat is a water-based product, so it does dry pretty quick, which is good, but try not to overwork it. Put it on, smooth it out, get any brush marks out, and then leave it be and let it dry. Once you get done and everything's nice and dry, you can come back and sand it to get it nice and smooth, and then come back with another coat, and you can do this 2 to 3 times till you feel you have adequate coverage. Okay, let's get started. I applied one coat, allowed it to dry completely. It only took about 15-20 minutes after I finished the last side, because by the time I got done with it, the first side was done. Once this was done, I came back with a 220 grit sandpaper just to lightly sand over it to knock off any bumps it had in the finish, and then I put on a second coat and allowed that to dry, and I was done. Here's my table all finished up. What do you guys think? Just as pretty as a $3,000 table, in my opinion. As always, thanks for watching, and be sure and follow along with Dixie Belle and Rehab to Fab Designs.